Hey, thanks for joining us here on Budgeting with Alex. My name's Alex and I'm here to help you take control of your finances. Today we're going to continue looking at how it is that you can put a budget together that works for you by incorporating your income into the budget we've been working on. So first up, if you've made it this far, let me just say, I am so proud of you. It's no easy thing to be faced by our spending decisions. It can actually take a lot of courage to look at how it is that we are managing our finances. So if you've made it this far, well done to you. Last time, we ended up with a bunch of numbers that roughly reflect what it is that we spend. During the week, I took the liberty of rounding to the nearest $10 just to make it easier for this exercise. Then, as I asked you to do in the last episode, I went through the numbers and tweaked them a little bit just to make it a little bit more realistic in terms of what the kind of spending should be. Now, for the sake of this exercise, I did change the numbers a little bit just so that I can demonstrate some of the things that I need you to see. This is where a video tutorial can only do so much. If I was sitting with you, I'd start asking questions about your spending just to make sure that your spreadsheet is accurate. Instead of that, it looks like you're going to have to do that yourself line by line. But as you can see, I now have a set of numbers that are all rounded and ready to work on. From here, I'm going to go to the top of my spreadsheet and put in our take-home yearly pay. Have a look at your pay slip and see there what your gross weekly pay is. Then what you want to do is just minus away the tax, and that should leave you with your net pay or your take-home pay. Simply multiply that by 52 weeks and you end up with your yearly take-home income. So our sample person, let's call her Chloe, has a weekly gross income of $1,000.16. Her payslip says they take out $161.83 out for tax each week. That leaves her with a take-home pay of $838.33 every week. When you multiply that by 52, it means Chloe's take-home yearly pay is $43,593 and a little bit of change. Now on this sheet, you'll notice I left some space for other income. Maybe she has a side hustle. Maybe she's got a second job. Maybe Chloe's got some investments. Well, in this case, Chloe doesn't have any of those things. She just has her weekly take-home pay. But if you do have other things, you want to put that income in there as well. You'll also see here that Chloe has more expenses than she does income, thus the credit card debt. Now, your numbers might not look the same as Chloe's do. In fact, it's almost guaranteed that they won't. But the idea is that you'll take the principles away as we look at Chloe's numbers and you'll apply them to your own budget and to your own spreadsheet. You know, the basic principle of budgeting is about living within your means. That means that you should be putting aside 10% of your wage for saving, 10% of your wage for investment, and you should be able to live on the other 80% of your income. I know that sounds crazy to some of you, but it actually is very, very possible. It may mean that you might need to shift your thinking towards what it is that you actually need. It might mean that you have to change your relationship with money and stuff. It may mean you might need to have a bit of a look at exactly what your expenses are, but as you do these things, you find your stress levels around money really do start to disappear. So if Chloe here was going to be saving 10% and investing 10% of her take-home pay, that would mean that she would have to put aside $4,359 into savings and the same into investment every year. At this point, Chloe isn't saving a thing, except to go on a holiday, which is a valid reason to save for something. Well, I'm just going to add $4,359 to her deposit savings as part of an investment and $4,359 to her general savings as a saving. In later episodes, I'll be talking about why that's so important and what you want to do with both your investment savings and your general savings. But for now, suffice it to say, you need to have it in there. You'll notice now Chloe's expenses are way higher than her income. This is obviously not going to work. This is where we get to do some values clarification. What are the things that are most important to you? What are the things that you're saving for? What is it that motivated you to actually want to start a budget in the first place? Are you trying to get out of debt? Are you saving for a home? Or are you just looking to try and get some financial security and stability? In order to make your budget add up here, you can either increase your income, maybe getting a pay rise, maybe getting a second job or a side hustle, or you can cut your discretionary spending. In this particular exercise, we're going to be looking at how it is that you can cut your discretionary spending. Your discretionary spending is anything that you don't have to spend the money on, whereas your essential spending is the kind of thing that if you don't spend your money on it, you end up with a creepy guy knocking at your door. You can see here, I've highlighted a bunch of discretionary spending items in Chloe's budget. It includes clothes, donations, eating out, all of that kind of thing. The truth is, even groceries are discretionary. She can make a choice as to how much it is that she chooses to get and where she chooses to get them from. Really, the only fixed costs that Chloe has are things like her credit card bill, her rent, her car expenses, things like that she's going to need. She'll still need something in all those other lines. But the point is that with discretionary expenses, you get a little bit more wiggle room on what it is that you're going to spend. So for example, maybe she can buy from a discount grocer instead of a full price grocer. Or maybe, and I know it's a big deal, but maybe Chloe doesn't have to get her makeup from Sephora. Maybe she could even make a choice not to buy quite as many clothes or eat out a little bit less. Even with essential costs, you can still make a difference even on the costs of those things. And we'll talk a bit more about that in future videos. But with your phone plan, you might be able to get a cheaper phone plan. Perhaps you can shop around for cheaper utilities. Maybe even on your health insurances or car insurance. If you do a little bit of shopping around, you'll find you get a better price. There are always ways to save money. So this is the point that I would start to ask Chloe, what are the things that are really important for her? Is she really serious about saving money for the deposit for that house she's looking at? How important is that to her? Because at this point, she's going to need to spend somewhere around $10,000 less than she currently has in her budget. Again, a video tutorial doesn't really do this justice, but my conversation with Chloe would be around the big expenses first. Is she saving for a specific holiday? Or can she cut down and spend less on her annual holidays? Maybe she could spend $4,500 a year instead of $7,000 on her holidays. The next highest is eating out and entertainment. And Chloe's spending around $155 every week, whether that's going out to dinner or going out to the movies or whatever. How much is she going out? Can she cut that down a little? Can she go over friends' places or have them over her place? If she can cut that down to $115 a week, then she'll save a significant amount of money. In fact, that would save her some $2,080 every year. Of course, clothing is another significant expense. If Chloe can maybe bring that down to $1,500 a year, then once again, she's saved another $1,000 just like that. And before you know it, she's already cut $5,580 out of her budget, and she only needs to get to just under $10,000. Remember, all these numbers I've just kind of made in this spreadsheet. Your numbers are going to mean a lot more to you, and you're going to need to make some decisions around which things are more important than others. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the payment for her credit card debt. What? Doesn't Chloe need to get out of debt as quickly as she can? Yeah, she sure does. I'm telling you now, she's probably paying a mozza in terms of interest on that debt. But a little later, we're actually going to use some of her savings to pay off some of that debt. It'll all come clear as we get a little bit further into the process. You see, there's no use saving money if you're actually paying 20% interest on your credit card debt. If you have $5,000 sitting in the bank and that's getting interest at 1%, if you take that and put it off your home loan, you'll save 5% interest. If you take it and put it off your credit card debt, you'll save 19 or 20% interest. So you are far better off using that money to pay down debt than to leave it sitting in your savings account doing almost nothing. But for now, let's just remove that $970 payment. We're now down to $3,254.84 still left to find. If I was sitting with Chloe, I would encourage her to continue looking through her expenses to cut down as much as she possibly can without being stupid and get that number as low as possible. Can she buy cheaper presents for her mate? Can she shop a little bit cheap? Can she shop around for cheaper health cover or maybe get that better phone plan? there are still ways to save in this budget. Let's say by doing all of that, she drops her costs by $1,040 a year. That's just another $20 a week. That now leaves her needing to find just $2,254.84, and she will break even on her budget. Now, like I said, there's still a lot of discretionary spending still left in this budget. There's lots that she can still cut. Everything from her Netflix subscription to some of her holidays. And I would say, do whatever you can to get this number as low as possible. Down to zero if you can. In fact, even if it's a positive number so you don't owe your budget, that would be even better. It's at this point you need to start asking your question around priorities. That $4,500 holiday might be really nice, but you might be better off just biting the bullet for a year or two, getting yourself out of debt, and then having a whole bunch of extra disposable income that you can spend in the future. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to say Chloe has cut as close to the bone as she possibly can, and yet she's still almost $2,300 off. But I'm doing that because I know that there are going to be people watching who are on far less than $52,000 a year. And for some, your expenses will be higher than Chloe's. So in that case, I would suggest taking the remaining deficit and splitting it between savings general and savings deposit. If you take that deficit and apply it to those two, that would drop those two numbers to $3,231 and some change. Now, this is not ideal, but if you've got nothing left to cut, you're gonna have to do something in the short term to bring your budget back into balance. Otherwise, you are gonna end up not just in debt, but going backwards. This at least gets your budget back into balance. You then take your general savings and you put half of it into your highest interest debt, in this case, credit card one, and the other half you put into your emergency fund. So let's talk about your emergency fund. This one line item has done more than anything else to reduce financial stress in my life. Your emergency fund is there for when unexpected and unbudgeted bills just pop up. Maybe your fridge blows up, maybe your car dies, maybe your pet just needs a serious operation. But this fund is for unexpected, unbudgeted, and sudden emergency. It's not for a clothing emergency where that shirt that you've had your eye on for a while has now just got on sale. It's not for that holiday emergency where Flight Centre have just come out with a great budget deal to Bali and you've got to go there with your mates. That stuff comes out of your holiday money and it comes out of your clothing money. This fund is for genuine emergencies. When you have the emergency fund in place, you don't live from week to week only one emergency breakdown away from financial ruin. You know you're covered if anything happens. So you put this money aside and you never, ever touch it. Unless there's a genuine emergency. Then you know that money is always there and ready for you when you need it. My suggestion is to use that emergency fund allocation to build up your emergency fund until you have about $2,000 sitting in there. Then you take that allocation and you start paying off your highest interest debt with that money. In this case, it would be Chloe's credit card debt. She would be paying more down and getting that debt down to zero. Once you've paid that debt down, then bring that allocation back to your emergency fund so you can build it up to somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. Now you've got a buffer that will cover almost anything that happens. Once you've got your emergency fund to where you want it to be, then you can use that allocation to start to pay down your lower interest debt, like your mortgage, for example. Or maybe you can put that into an investment, or maybe you put it into something like your house deposit that you're saving for. This money should never go into general spending, ever. It should only ever be used for either reducing debt, increasing your emergency fund, or sowing into your future. Now, after all that, you have a budget that is balanced, you're investing in your future, you're building an emergency fund, and you're paying off high interest debt. All of that while living within your means. Let me tell you, you are so close now. If you've gotten through all of that, you actually have a workable budget that will hold you in good stead. Gold star to you. In our last episode in the series, We're actually going to automate our budget so that you'll never have to worry whether you've spent too much or not. If you found this useful, don't forget to hit that like button. That tells YouTube this was a video worth watching, and they'll show it to more people. Maybe you have a friend who they could do with some help in their finances. Why don't you share this link with them? I know that they'll be appreciative that you have. And if you haven't done it yet, why not hit that subscribe button and ding that bell? That way, the next time a video comes out, you'll get notified. Always remember, budgeteers, if you don't tell your money where to go, you'll never be able to say where it went. Thanks for watching. See you next time. She's still going to need something in all those other lines, but there is a little wiggle room in terms of those expenses. Maybe she can buy at a discount grocer. Maybe she can get her makeup from Target instead of Sephora. And of course, she can always choose to buy less clothes or eat less food. Let me rephrase that. Okay, let's try that again.
It's like, first she's going to Target, she's going to Sephora. Unbelievable. You have no idea about women.
I know.